Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with carrot cake. That's right, out of all the vegetables people have tried to make cakes with, only one hit it big, and that was the humble carrot. And I know zucchini did get a bread, which is kind of impressive, but still it is a bread, so carrot wins. But vegetable-based dessert rankings aside, I'm very excited to show you this. And we'll go ahead and begin that by getting together our dry ingredients. And I'll start with a couple cups of all-purpose flour, to which we will add some salt, as well as some baking soda and baking powder. Oh yeah, we're doing both this time. And then as far as spices go, we'll do some ground ginger, as well as a couple spoons of cinnamon. And that's it. We'll simply take a whisk and give this a thorough mixing to make sure all those ingredients are nicely combined. And once that's been accomplished, we'll simply set that aside and start on the wet ingredients. And we'll begin that by adding a little touch of sugar to this bowl, into which we're going to whisk 4 large whole eggs. And by the way, if you're thinking, hey, sugar's not a wet ingredient. No, it's not physically, but the baking and pastry chefs consider it a wet ingredient in these recipes. And since they tend to be kind of a temperamental group, we let them call it what they want. But anyway, we're going to whisk those eggs and sugar together for a few minutes, until it all looks a little something like this. At which point we're ready to add our melted fats. And we're doing 2 kinds here. We're going to do some unsalted butter, as well as some coconut oil, which kind of sort of looks like vegetable shortening at room temperature. Except according to my sources, it's way, way healthier for you. And I'll give more info on the blog about exactly which one to use. But anyway, what we'll do is place that over low heat until it just melts. All right, we don't want this too hot, just until it melts. And if you think it did get too hot, just let it sit and cool until it's just warm. And then what we'll do is go ahead and whisk that into our egg and sugar mixture, which we were probably supposed to do gradually, but I don't and didn't, and it works fine. So we'll go ahead and stir all that together, at which point it's ready for the star of the show, our carrots, which we are going to need to peel and grate first. And that might not sound like something you need a tip for, but I'm going to give you one anyway. And that's that if you grate a carrot at an angle, you're going to get longer strands, which I don't really want here. All right, by doing the carrot not at an angle, more perpendicular like this, you're going to get much shorter gratings, okay, much smaller pieces, which I think works better in this recipe. And sure, that probably means this will take an extra minute or two, but I think it's worth it. Of course, having said that, any way you do this is probably going to be fine. And if you think about it technically, no matter how you do it, you're doing a great job. But anyway, we're going to need to get about 2 generous cups, which we'll go ahead and transfer into our wet ingredients, along with some crushed pineapple, and if you're using them, some nuts, and I am. I'm going to do some pecans and walnuts. And once those are in, we'll go ahead and give this a stir. And because I wanted it to be harder and take longer, I used a nice small spatula. And then what we'll do to finish this batter off, after switching to a bigger spatula, is we'll go ahead and add our dry ingredients and stir this all together. And basically that's it. As soon as everything's incorporated and we can't see any more flour, we can go ahead and transfer this into a lightly buttered baking dish. And I'm just going to do it in one big rectangle because it's way easier. But if you wanted to fill up a couple round cake pans and do a layer cake instead, feel free. I mean, you guys are, after all, the Dwight Schrutes of desserts made with roots. Which reminds me, assistant to the carrot cake maker is not the same thing as assistant carrot cake maker. All right, totally different pay scale. But anyway, we'll go ahead and transfer that batter in, at which point it's pretty much ready for the oven. But before that happens, let's go ahead and give it the old tappa, which hopefully will bring any big air bubbles up to the surface. And that's it. Once that's been accomplished, we can go ahead and transfer this into the center of a 350-degree oven for about 40-45 minutes, or until it looks like this. So yes, it looks done and totally gorgeous, but we never just want to go by looks. So to be sure, let's go ahead and poke it with a toothpick. And if it comes out clean, you're done. And if it comes out with a bunch of wet batter on it, you're not. Put it back in. But this was perfect, which means all we have to do now is let it cool completely. Repeat, cool completely before we frost it. If you're going to frost it, by the way. Which I hope you are. I mean, only a crazy person eats cake without frosting. And what I have here is our official Food Wishes cream cheese frosting, which I will, of course, provide a link to. And we'll go ahead and spread that evenly over our completely cooled cake. And just for fun sometime, try to spread this cream cheese frosting over a really hot cake, just to see what happens. I don't want to spoil it, but it's not good. And then what we'll do once this has been successfully frosted is pop it in the fridge for at least a couple hours so that frosting firms up nicely and we get some beautiful clean cuts. Which is what I'm going to pretend we did right here, even though I didn't. And the reason for that is I really wanted to grab a fork and see how this came out, since it had been about 10 years since I made this recipe. But you really do want to wait for that frosting to firm up, because as you'll see as I cut this corner piece, those edges of our frosting are going to be a little bit sloppy and messy. Not to mention we might end up with an unsightly frosting fingerprint right in the middle, which is never a great look. And by the way, it's just not an appearance thing. The taste and texture of the frosting will be better if it's cold. But despite the aforementioned issues, the cake itself was amazing, and every bit as good as I remembered it was. Alright, there's basically two styles of this. The light, airy, cakey version, and then the sort of dark, dense, very moist version. And what I enjoy is something right in the middle of those, which I think this was. So I was thrilled with how this came out, but not necessarily how it looked. So I let it chill completely so I could get one more cut with nice clean edges. You know, for the pictures. Which is why I garnished the top with a little bit of chopped pecan and a few slices of candied carrot, which I will tell you how to do on the blog. And even though I just did a tasting, I figured as a professional I really should take a couple more bites of the one I photoed. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it. But anyway, that's it. My take on carrot cake. We got Easter coming up pretty soon. And when I think of Easter, I think of rabbits. And when I think of rabbits, I think of carrots. And when I think of carrots, I think of this delicious cake. Although, why do we think of rabbits again when we think of Easter? Oh, that's right, the eggs. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is I really do hope you give this a try soon. So head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.